All right, welcome to the podcast.
How's it going? Welcome.
We got Ryan Niemiller here today.
Hi, is the podcast called The Podcast?
Yeah.
We have no
Right now,
idea.
it is.
That's all right.
I think we name it sometime.
I like that you're just making content with no branding whatsoever, and
Yeah.
you're just like, we'll figure it out.
No, my
Yeah,
wife asked
yeah.
me a ton of questions today. She said, "What's the name of the podcast?" And I was like, "What?" And then she said, "Do you have a song like in mind for the podcast?" And I was like, "What are all these questions?" She said, "You know what you're going to ask this guy?" And I said, I'm just trying to do the dishes right now."
Yeah. And also, just full disclosure, it was pretty late last night when you sent me a message and you're like, can you maybe by chance be here a little early?
Yeah.
And I was like, well, if the 4 inches of snow that's coming through doesn't prevent it. So there's a lot that could have made this not exist.
Yeah, it shouldn't have, probably, and everyone's going to be upset that they listened to it.
Yeah, quite frank, I'm already a little pissed off I'm doing it.
Yeah.
Usually,
Not gonna lie to you.
I didn't know anything more than you did, and he's been telling me where he didn't let me in on the details.
Yeah.
I came up with a couple ideas for names, and he said they're not bad for names of the podcast. That's how
One of them will be
They're
yours.
not.
That's how this usually works.
That was my way of saying they are bad, and I don't like any of them. Now that you bring it up,
But I like you.
That's why I've known you long enough to know.
it's David. I care about you,
Yeah.
and I care about your feelings.
Yes, it's like someone asked you one time about their bit. Did you think that was good? And you answered, "Well, no one laughed." That's how you answered it.
That is true.
Yeah. That was always the. I don't have to worry about it nearly as much now. It's just part of doing this for long enough where you don't have to because I still hang out with a lot of people I started with, but like when you're younger in comedy years, you're often doing the same mics with the same people, and it takes a little bit to build that trust where you can be like, no, that was terrible. Yeah. Where you can just be upfront. So initially we would always just joke about what you could say, oh man, that good energy. You have good energy up there. Oh man, I heard some people and they were like, man, he was really up there.
Yeah.
Mine is, keep trying that, and if it doesn't work out, then maybe that's it. But there could be something there.
Yeah, and at this point, especially if comics ask me for unless I'm close to them, I'll never critique material because that's all so subjective.
Right.
And it's I'll critique structure and technique because that's stuff you can tweak and do things with. But the actual bit, I always use him as an example, and I don't know him personally, but Larry the Cable Guy, for instance, I think is very unfunny personally.
Okay.
But that dude, there's a lot of people on this planet who that's their favorite. He's the pinnacle of comedy, and we're both right.
Yeah.
So that's why comedy's so weird. So when someone's like, was that funny? I never want to tell you your material's good or bad because who the hell am I?
You have no idea.
And plus, I'm never going to buy a ticket to see you. That's just not how comedy works. Right. Comics are not going to be buying tickets to see their buddies,
No.
I love that my mom thinks I'm funny, but I don't care because she gets into every show I do for free. She's not putting food on my table. So it's a nice bonus that I don't have to deal with my mom telling me how untalented I am. But they're not paying for anything. I need strangers to want to buy a ticket to come see me. That's who I care thinks I'm funny.
Right.
I mean, the other thing is Larry the Cable Guy, if he found out that you didn't think that he was funny, he would be fine with that.
Do you think he cares anything about my or anyone else's opinion?
No. He's happy that he has his fans. That's like if Slayer was like, why doesn't everyone like us? We're obviously for everybody.
Yeah. Even the most well-beloved, it's different, but Taylor Swift, for instance.
Yeah, I don't get it.
Most of Earth, most of the population of Earth would not like her music. It doesn't mean she's not successful or doing great or making... you're never going to be universally loved. And comics, I think, are one of the groups that get real weird about that. We're really bad at taking criticism. And because at the end of that's what cancellation is to most comics.
Right.
It's not that you're being canceled for saying something offensive. They're mad that they're not universally loved. That's what they think canceling is.
It would be nice to be universally loved.
100%.
Now that you say it, I kind of do want that. I haven't thought
You've
about it
always
until
wanted it.
now.
You're getting out now that you realize it's not possible.
No, I'm going to show you guys that it is possible.
Yeah, I'm going to show you.
Ryan's
every
trajectory
show
is not my trajectory.
Yeah.
I will be universally loved.
You will.
Yeah, every show, standing ovation.
Yeah,
That's
absolutely.
just a possibility for the name of the podcast, Universally Loved. Right?
Oh, that's
We're going to
great.
name it by the end of this.
That's not bad, David.
It's not bad.
Good energy. Good energy on that name.
I think someone will like it.
Yeah. No,
Just keep working, man. You
keep
were
throwing them out there.
you went for it, and that's what
And,
takes a lot of bravery to get up there and do it, man.
Yeah. Oh,
I'm
yeah.
going to keep doing it. Yeah.
Oh, dude, one time I bombed so hard at this seafood restaurant, and when I was leaving, I had another show up the street.
Which, by the way, that's a total conversation that only happens in like comedy.
Yeah.
Where because like I didn't even flinch, and then I just had a moment of like, that's a real dumb sentence to anybody
yeah,
else who doesn't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was at the seafood restaurant and I bombed my ass off.
Yeah.
I
Of
did
course you
too.
did.
Now, people get bombed at seafood restaurants.
That is true. Yes.
But yes, I just bombed, and there was a DJ too. And when I was leaving, the DJ goes, "Let's hear it again for Brice. It's not easy to get up there and do that." And I was just like, "Oh my god."
Yeah, that you don't want the pity because like you know,
Yeah.
you know it didn't go well.
Yeah.
Well, you forgot the part of that story, which is my favorite story of Bryce's ever about bombing, is he landed the punchline of a joke and nothing, and then a lady cracked a crab leg. Like that's, that's like, in that silence, you just,
Yeah, I think whenever you're doing a comedy show at a place that also has loud food,
Oh yeah.
like I was at I can't remember. I honestly can't remember the comedy club itself. I was so mad that I bombed, not because I bombed, because that's part of this.
Yeah.
But one of the things on their menu was fajitas.
So the sizzling
Which
flakes coming out?
is like one of the loudest foods. Like a comedy club, and I'm sure they were very tasty.
Yeah.
But like, there's certain food. I was like, oh, did you run out of the carrots that scream when you bite them? You couldn't serve those at the comedy show in the middle of my. Because like, man, if you get no laughs, it's rough. But then when you also hear someone about to enjoy a meal, you just hear coming from the back, and it's like, oh man.
Go, ooh, I wish I got that.
I think that's ours. It's like, oh man, maybe I should just become a server at this restaurant. That's
Dude,
my.
I've had it to where I can hear the refrigerator in the back.
Oh,
It's like, damn.
yeah. Sometimes it's just not your night.
Yeah, and that's fine. I'm fine. It's harder on the audience, I think, to bomb. People are watching what is their worst nightmare, and you're like, this is job hazard.
Yeah, for you, it's just like, well, at least we got half-price crab legs.
Exactly.
Yeah, at least that was part of the deal here.
Man, okay, so you're from Indiana.
Yep. Jealous.
Yes, very. So jealous. What part of Indiana are you from?
So I grew up in a little town called DeMott, Indiana. So it's up in northwest Indiana. We're basically a really distant farming suburb of Chicago. So there's like there's like 4 counties up there that are on Central Time because so many people commute into Chicago to work.
Right.
So, essentially we're Chicago, but not Chicago as far as we were Chicago TV, Chicago, same time zone, same everything else. Well, I'm a Cubs fan because of all that from up there.
Okay.
WGN growing up. So, yeah, just real small farming town. About as big as it sounds. My high school was in a town called Wheatfield, if that gives you an idea of.
yeah.
Should be very comfortable in the area where we're at right now. It's very similar. Yeah.
You guys getting out for shotgun season up there?
Basically, yeah, that kind of stuff is only $1. Damn it! That's all I get to shoot.
Oh man, I need more tags.
Tired of the man.
So, is that where you're starting comedy?
No, I started in LA because I didn't know any better.
Oh wow.
So yeah, that it's one of those things like comedy is so weird because people will be so guarded sometimes with telling you basic information that sounds dumb. I mean, I'm in my 19th year right now of doing this.
Wow.
And early on, like I knew comedy existed elsewhere. I went to school in Terre Haute in Indiana State.
Weird smelling town.
Yeah, 100%. You're welcome.
Yeah, we were just there. Yeah.
No, I didn't go to that.
Oh yeah, you didn't go out. Yeah.
I said no.
I declined because of the
You
smell.
declined
It's
Terre Haute.
the
Yeah,
smell.
you did turn down Terre Haute.
Yeah, so I got a theater degree there, which is when you think of acting, you think Terre Haute, Indiana.
Yes.
That's the mecca of entertainment right there. And I knew comedy existed everywhere, but like I thought you had to go to like New York or LA to like learn. Basically, I thought that like that's where they they fire them out. And then you can kind of go forth and do Owensboro, Kentucky, or whatever places you're doing.
Johnny Depp's hometown. If you're paying attention, he's been there.
Yeah, they use. I don't know. I don't think they do the gigs there anymore. There was like an old bar restaurant that they did gigs there, which I always had a good time. But it was almost like being like in a prison. Like if you look at any movie where they have like all the cells, like where you're walking through that kind of narrow hallway, and there's like cells on each side, and they're usually throwing their semen at people walking by or whatever. The room was laid out like that. So it had like a balcony area and like it was just like very thin and it was like my penis basically. It was just long and narrow. That just went out that way.
In a jail.
Yes, exactly. And it does well in prisons. So I thought you had to start in LA. So I was dating a girl long distance at the time who was in LA, so it just kind of made sense. I had a buddy who I lived with for a couple years in college, who was an engineer, who had a job in LA County, and he had a spare room, and he was basically my sugar daddy for a couple years. He said, as long as you're, you can't sit around and do nothing, but as long as you're like working and trying to, do open mics and do all this stuff, I won't charge you rent. So I went out there, broke up with the girl within 6 months, because that's what happens. Which it does have a happy ending because she's now the mother of my child and my wife. It came full circle.
He turned around. David's dating his ex-wife right now.
Okay.
Next wife is my girlfriend.
That is something we'll get into a little later. I'm gonna tell my weird thing first, and you can tell your weird thing after that.
That's it. That's all I got.
But we were, we were just kind of young and stupid. Like it was early 20s, and think back to when you're in your early 20s. You're an idiot. You don't know any better. I don't care who you are. And I wasn't the best version of me. I was really depressed, and I'm working at Target. Just trying to pay the bill. That's like my day job, and I'm just doing these open mics. You guys know comedy. It's like you don't make money for a long time, and then if you get lucky, you make some money on the back end.
Right.
And probably more than you deserve. Like, that's kind of how it works. It's all backloaded if it works out for you at all. And it was a situation, like, her family at the time was like, well, he's not going to be able to support you because he's basically a clown that's not making any money. And all those voices matter a lot more to you when you're 22, 23.
Right.
So, she got married. She did her own thing for a while. When her marriage was ending, it timed up really well from when I did America's Got Talent, which films in Pasadena, LA area.
Yeah.
So when I did it, on a whim, I invited her to the taping, and luckily it went well, and we sort of reconnected, and we were kind of both our one that got away, and now I have a menace of a child.
Nice.
And yeah.
Well, if you're
so for you, I'm shocked that you're dating your ex-wife just because for me, I had to get third place on America's Got Talent.
Yeah.
That's how that's usually my advice to anyone. Like if you want to get the one that got away, just have Simon Cowell like you.
Yeah.
Well, you probably just
she wasn't really one that got away when she was my ex-wife. I mean, I wanted her to go away at the time, but
that's the point. Yeah.
So you're the one that got away.
Yeah, maybe. Well, I think we both wanted each other to go away at the time.
And then David started hosting an open mic.
Yeah, that's all I had.
And that's like, ladies, you know how you are. You get the vapors.
Running back, I did 3 open mics. Yeah, that's all.
Third place in America's Got Talent. I don't know what that would do for you.
I know.
You'd probably be dating every ex-girlfriend you ever had.
Yeah. I would have to leave her again if I got third. I'd be like, I got to see who else is coming back. Yeah.
It might be too much success for her.
It might be. Yeah.
She would see that and be like, that's not the guy I know.
Yeah.
He's changed.
Yeah. I like when you bomb at seafood restaurants. That's what I want to say.
I remember when you were doing poorly in life, I was wanting to go back to that.
Yeah. I kind of like the injured puppy kind of part that I can nurse back to him.
To the truck.
Oh, that's true.
Show.
Yeah. She left.
I think she didn't make it through our sets, I think, maybe.
She did. Yeah. She left early. She was like, I need to sit in the truck.
Yeah.
I get it. You get to a point. I get nervous at shows, not for myself, but to watch other people is what makes me nervous.
It's really tough because it sounds like unsupportive, and I don't mean it to be. It's not even like nerves for me. I've just been doing this long enough, and like I'm confident in what I'll do. Like I'm not worried. Like I can follow if someone crushes before me, if someone bombs before me. Like I'm confident in what I do that I'll figure it out. It's more that's like the only way I can still enjoy comedy personally is that I don't watch comedy. And you know, if my buddies get on the Tonight Show or like, you know, a friend gets on AGT, I'll watch their sets. But like anytime someone asks me like, oh, did you watch the new Dave Chappelle special? No, and I never will.
Wow.
And like comics I love.
Yeah,
Bill Burr's got a new special. Did you see it? Nope, never will. And I love Bill Burr. You know, just like stuff like that
It's a weird thing.
Because like when this becomes your job, it's something you really work for, but there's so much pressure and it's so all encompassing that like I can't enjoy this if all I'm doing at home is consuming more of this. Like I'm gonna play video games, I'm gonna watch sports, I'm gonna that way when I come here, I'm like, oh, this is fun. I'm gonna have a good time.
Yeah.
Instead of like, just more of this bullshit. I guess like, all right.
The thing that really gets me, and it'll get me to stop watching comedy for a while, is if I see someone that has a bit that is similar to something that I've done, and they're humongous, and I'm like, dude, I was gonna do a very similar thing on stage. Now I feel like that I've seen it. I can never do that premise because of that. So I kind of try not to watch stuff sometimes because I'm like, they could say some things like this, I will feel like I'm stealing in the future. Does that make sense?
And even if you're not stealing, because that's something that happens, parallel thinking's a real thing.
Yeah.
There's only a finite amount of topics.
Right.
That can be, if you're talking about your wife, chances are someone's had a similar...
You guys ever killed your wife?
Yeah, exactly. And then your dog keeps digging up the bones, you know. That old chestnut.
Yeah.
You know, it's going to happen. And you have to be honest with yourself, like if you came up with the idea. But like at the same time, you can have a bit or an idea, and then if a comic does it on a Netflix special, it's their joke.
Yeah.
Because perception is just, you know, whoever got there. It doesn't mean they stole, because that's something that will like mistakenly be done. People will just
100%.
Like I did a joke on, 'cause I know you're good friends with him as well, Dusty Slade. I did a joke on AGT that I've done, I think, literally since my first month in comedy about fist fighting tornadoes. How growing up in a trailer is, you know, scary because tornadoes hunt trailers and they tell you to go outside and fight. Like that's the bit. Dusty grew up in a trailer too. And I guess I had like a clip of that video well after I was on AGT go a little viral on Instagram, and people will be like, stole this from Dusty Slay. And it's like, no, we both had similar upbringing, so we had a similar idea. You just happen to see Dusty's joke first.
Exactly.
I've been doing this joke since 2006.
Right.
Like, so you have to like be honest with yourself. It's like, Dusty and I are friends. Like, we both know, like, we didn't steal the jokes from each other. That's not how it works. Right. But perception matters, and people are dumb, and they'll jump at you quick. It's like, oh, I happen to see that joke from someone else first, so that means you're a thief. And it's like, you don't know shit about shit. Like, shut up. Like, that's not how it works.
I had when we did we both opened for Hannibal Buress, and after the show, a girl came up to me and she was like, "You did so good, but you repeated a joke." And I was like, "What do you mean I repeated a joke from a time you saw me before?" And she was like, "Yeah." I was like, "I've done this is probably the 100th time I've done that joke. I'm gonna be doing it for a long time until." You know,
come see me for a while.
I can't ever do it again. If you see me in 3 years, I'll probably still be doing it.
Yeah, that's a weird stress that's on comics and not other things. Like, I noticed it a ton. Before AGT, no one cared who I was, so it doesn't matter as much. You just assume that no one's seen you because no one's come to see you on purpose anyway.
Right.
Up to that point, it's just not how it works. But when I was on AGT, I was, you know, doing a little bit of like research, like talking to some of my buddies, just kind of looking at reviews of other comics who have been on AGT. And one of the biggest like positive comments for other like, oh, I went and saw Preacher Lawson. He was awesome. He didn't do a single joke he did on AGT. Where if you're a musician on a show like AGT, they want to hear the hit. Or people are like, oh, fuck them. They only did new stuff. This is, I want to hear the hits, you know?
Dude, I saw the Rolling Stones, and I was like, I hope they don't play any new songs. And like 3 songs in, I'm like, what the hell is this? Yeah. Give me Wild Horses.
Yeah.
Yeah, but comics have to deal with that. Like, it's stressful. Like, you know, if I come back in a year, even if it like doesn't matter, there's going to be a pressure that like, well, I better have at least half new stuff, or people are going to be mad that they can't, because comedy doesn't have the same, you know, what makes a joke work is the surprise of the first time. Right. It's that like, oh, I didn't see where this was going, or like, oh, it's fun. But then when you know the trick, maybe you'll watch it one more time to kind of see like, oh, like my buddy's going to see this. But then at a certain point, you're just like, forget it. Like, I'm done with this. Like, you can't watch The Sixth Sense 5 times and still be like, whoa!
So that is the weird thing, though, because comedy movies, you can watch a ton of times. I just went and saw Tommy Boy in theaters, and I was like, that was as good as the first time I saw it.
Yeah.
But it can't be that way for on-stage jokes.
Yeah, it doesn't work that. And part of something like that, because that's not a universal rule, I think, with stand-up. But I think it's like if something becomes comfort food, I think it's different. You know, because like
that's a good take.
Because I'm not surprised by any of the bits in Tommy Boy anymore. But that was a movie I watched a ton in high school. You know, when it first came out. So for me, it's comfort food. Right. You know, it's like I'm not watching it. The first time I watched it was legitimately hysterical. And then it's funny when you're watching with people who are watching it for the first time. Then it becomes, I love this because it reminds me of this time, or I feel good when I watch this thing. It's not about the shock of it anymore.
And most of those like movies like that, I've probably only seen from start to finish maybe 2 or 3 times. But it's one of those when you see it on, you'll catch up with it in the middle and just watch the rest of it.
Right.
Step Brothers or whatever it is. It's on. I'm gonna watch the end again.
That's how I was with the Dana Carvey stand-up special in the 90s when Comedy Central was first kind of really getting going, and they just didn't have much. That special, I swear, aired 7-8 times a day.
Is that the one with the, he's talking about buying action figures for his kids?
Yeah.
So good.
This was, and it's still a funny special. It's one of the few positive memories I have with my dad, because my dad loved that special. You know, that's the chopping broccoli. It's the framing OJ. You in? Like, it's a really funny special. It's just, but like, it would be a comfort food thing if I watch it now. I could probably recite most of the special verbatim just based on how much it was on right now. And it's just, but it's like, okay, this is comfort food. But if I went and saw his new stuff for the first time, I wouldn't go twice in one weekend.
Right. Yeah.
You know, I wouldn't go to the Friday and Saturday show.
You know, David Tell, he just did 3 shows up in St. Louis, and they said that all 3 nights he did different sets, and none of it was. I mean, he's a different kind of person.
I was gonna say,
he's a maniac.
Yeah. I was gonna say he's insane.
Yeah,
that's a different thing. Because like if I'm doing a full weekend, I'll do a little bit different, just depending on, you know, the early show. You can't do as long because you gotta, you know, like I'll do a little bit, or if I'm working on something new, I might try that on the Saturday late show, because that show is usually the shittier one. You know,
okay. You
know, because like the stakes are like, if your early Saturday is sold out, you want to bring your A game. You want to bring the hits. Yeah. If the second show is half full and everyone's drunk and loud, fuck them. They're gonna hear what I'm workshopping. You know, like that's what they're gonna do. Yeah.
So whenever you start doing stand-up, obviously there's a catalyst to that. Who were you watching? Was there what was the first stand-up you went to see in person? Was it a famous person? Was it an open mic? Was it...
First stand-up that I can remember going to see was, it was a dual bill of Stephen Lynch and Mitch Hedberg.
Wow.
So it was about maybe 4 months before Mitch Hedberg died. So it was around there. I wouldn't say that was the catalyst for me wanting to start stand-up, but that was like, you know, I always kind of, I wanted to be a pro wrestler. Like that was the initial I always wanted to be an entertainer. That was kind of just part of my brain. But pro wrestling was my thing. That's where Cripple Threat came from. That's where all that branding is. I was going to be pro wrestling stuff. And I trained to be a wrestler for like 2 months, and it's really hard, it turns out. You get thrown around, and they want you to work out all the time.
What if they let you be like one of the ladies, like the Fabulous Moolah or something like where,
they were badasses too.
or like a Jimmy Hart, where you're like you just get to like do a lot of height. There's maybe a little bit going in.
I mean, you still got to train to do all that too. Like, that's the thing. You still got to learn to fall when you do that, because like they want you to be as versatile as possible.
True.
And it just like. It wasn't going to work physically. It had nothing to do with my hand disability. It was just more, I wasn't in good enough shape, and it hurts your back. Like, I don't know if you're wrestling fans, like the whole big thing about it is it's fake, and it's like, no, it's scripted. Those are two different things. You're still getting your ass beat, just everyone's in on it. That's the difference. And
so when Paul Bear is falling, you're saying that old bastard is really, really feeling it hard.
Yeah, I mean, well, at this point, he's been dead for like 10 years.
Rest in peace.
Yeah, he's so I always wanted to be an entertainer, and I was kind of always like the class clown guy, and that was just more of living in a small town and being the only person with a disability in a small town. Turns out kids are assholes, and
I teach them. I hate them.
I know, because I have a 1.5-year-old, and he's mean to me all the time. I FaceTime. I'm staying at my sister's house in Indianapolis as we're recording this, and she has a dog. And my wife insisted that he was asking to talk to Dada. And the second we got on the phone, he's just like, pup, pup, pup. He just wants to see the fucking dog.
Well, yeah, I want to see the dog too.
Yeah, so he's like emotionally mean to me. He's bullying me. And I brought him into this world.
Is he obsessed with mommy at this point in time?
More or less, but like he's not to where that hurts my feelings, because there's things like that like are developmentally normal. Right. Like I'm intelligent enough to kind of realize that like, okay, even though it sucks that like he'll cry if I try to grab him sometimes because he wants mom, it's totally appropriate for a 1.5-year-old to do that.
But you're not intelligent enough to figure out how to be cooler than the dog.
Not 100% not. It's a really nice dog. So
okay.
It's a snickerdoodle. So it's it's a very beautiful dog. So I understand it, but I'm not happy about it. What was I talking about?
First shows.
Oh yeah. So when I was growing up, I learned to be funny to not get made fun of.
Yeah.
That was sort of the thing, and part of it was just natural charisma. Like, I do honestly feel you can learn to be funny. You don't have to naturally be a funny person to do well in stand-up. I am someone who just like, I kind of always had that natural wit at least, and I just had to learn technique. So I learned to be, if I made the jokes first, I was way better at them than anybody else was. So everyone was like, oh, we like this guy. He's funny. He's cool. Yeah. And I could roast other people. I never tried to be mean-spirited because I know how much that sucks. Right. But, it was just, I did it to survive. And I had a couple buddies who we would always watch this, I went to high school in the 90s. So in high school, we would watch SNL every Saturday. And then we would just quote it to each other and kind of perform what we saw in the skits during the week of school again. And I kind of always had it in the back of my head that like, oh, I love stand-up. It's something that my dad enjoyed. It was one of the few, he was an alcoholic, but it was one of the few times he actually was kind of like mellow and enjoying himself. He was fun to be around when he was laughing. So that was kind of in the back of my head, but my brain was still, I'm going to be a pro wrestler. That's why I did theater, was like, oh, that's going to help me with wrestling. All that was connected. And when the wrestling thing didn't work, I was like, fuck it, I'll try stand-up. I always liked, doing that. Right. It lets me perform in front of people. And so when I graduated college, I just went out to LA, and that's when all that part started.
Think about stopping this just to be a wrestler now that you're bringing all this wrestling stuff up. Okay, best wrestler from your childhood.
Best as in like my favorite?
Your favorite.
Favorite. Okay, that's different.
Okay, yeah. I'm not talking about most technical or anything.
Because if we're talking like, most technical or best draw or who I would put on my, Mount Rushmore, those are different topics. Yeah. But my very first favorite wrestler was Tatanka.
Oh, okay.
I've always, so I have a weird personality thing where I'm like, and I know it's a fault of mine that I'm contrarian to a fault. It's why if there's anything popular, I have to wait until people stop talking about it to watch it, because my brain goes, oh, you think Breaking Bad's the greatest show ever? I'm going to watch it and tell you everything I hate about it. And I know that's a dick move on my part. I'm not saying that I'm correct in that.
I know that you can't control it, because I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, it's just like, oh, you're hyping this so much. Here's every reason it's stupid.
Yeah.
And so when I was always watched wrestling, like I would enjoy the top stars. Like I was a big fan through like the Attitude Era. So like I liked Steve Austin and The Rock, but my brain was always like, I like Hardcore Holly. You know, I would pick these like weird, like kind of underneath mid card guys.
Who's the Smiley guy? What's that guy's Norman Smiley?
Norman Smiley, I love Norman with the big wiggle. He's doing a little dance and yeah, like I would love characters like that, and I would still enjoy the top guys. Like that's keeps you in. But my brain always was like I have a tattoo of the Hurricane, the wrestler who was like a superhero wrestler. It was Shane Helms when he came over from WCW to WWF.
Remember him.
Yeah, his whole thing was he was a a fake superhero because he was a comic book nerd.
Just a second, the computer stopped doing something.
Did you break it?
It says it's still recording.
We're doing it live.
Yeah. All right. Okay. All right. Yeah.
All that.
So, yeah. It's better now.
Perfect.
Okay. I turned up my volume too because I was just getting up a little for some reason. Okay. Okay. Tatanka.
There we go. Yeah. So I always loved those kind of like, not even like underdog in that they were presented that way, but like characters that might not have been as traditionally popular with everybody else.
Right.
I was like, screw it, I'll be their fan. You know, and that's how I always with even with like comedy, I'm the same way. Like I'll music, I'm the same way. I can recognize that like bands or comedians, like I know they're a big deal, but I just don't personally like them.
Yeah.
Like Richard Pryor, I get why he's important. He does not make me laugh. And again, it doesn't mean that you're wrong if you think he's funny. Like the Beatles are one of my least favorite bands of all time. Yeah. It doesn't mean that I think that they're shitty and no one... Like it's the argument that I had to have with my brother this weekend who did not like Kendrick Lamar at the Super Bowl halftime.
Yeah.
And it's like, you have to, like, you need to have it in your brain that, like, just because something's not for you doesn't mean it's bad. So those are two different conversations. Yeah. The Beatles are very important. Yeah. They're not for me. and I wouldn't tell you you're wrong for liking them. Like,
we talk about it all the time.
Yeah.
Same thing that, and like I said, rarely will you hear me say an artist of any kind that's reached some level where they have a lot of fans where I'll say they suck. I'll say I don't get it. I don't understand it. But I don't think it's even fair. Like, okay, they probably don't suck at what they do. If thousands of people are showing up for them, I probably just don't get it.
It's just not for me. Like, not everything's for you.
Yeah.
You know, like I never try to convince anyone that pro wrestling is great. Because if you don't like it, you don't like it. That's just how it works. But leave me alone and let me... That's why my wife and I work. She does not care about wrestling at all. Right. But if she made fun of me every time I watched it, we would legitimately get divorced. And not because I love wrestling that much, but because that's a big personality clash that you can't like your spouse like a thing that makes them happy. Yeah. You know, so that's important.
Evangelizing of anything that is artistic is what is insane to me.
Yeah.
Like people who are way into the Grateful Dead. It's like, okay, I get that you like it. I just don't have to. And that's fine.
It doesn't ruin it shouldn't ruin your enjoyment.
No.
Like if my wife does not like wrestling, I don't sit there and watch, WrestleMania and go, so stupid, my wife's not in here watching this. No, I just have a good time. She reads a book in the other room. We have dinner together and we just enjoy each other's company. Like that you have to understand sometimes that everyone has their own stuff, and there are certain things that in certain moments are bigger than you as well. The Super Bowl is one that I always do that. Like, I'm a theater kid. I have a lot of theater friends who aren't, stereotypically are not usually the most sports savvy people. Right. They're in the arts and that because they don't like that stuff.
Right.
And seeing so many of them every year be like, oh, is there a sports ball game on? You don't have to watch the Super Bowl. You got to fucking understand that 150 million people are going to watch it. Yeah. You just there's certain days you just got to shut up.
Exactly.
I don't like Star Wars. I'm on May 4th. On May 4th, I'm just going to let people have fun and do whatever because it's bigger than me on that day.
Okay, weird Star Wars question.
Sure.
Even though you don't like it, do you like the characters?
It depends on the character.
Because I don't care about Star Wars at all. But I get excited about Yoda. And I get excited about Boba Fett. I like seeing them. And I don't know what it is, but I don't give a shit about the movies. Mandalorian was good, though, I will say. I did watch that, and I did enjoy that.
Yeah, like, and I'm probably being a little too harsh when I say I hate it, because I don't hate it, but like people who love it,
Yeah.
and it will ruin their day if you're just like, I don't care for it. It's not for me.
I got in an argument one time over Harry Potter.
Yeah, Harry Potter people are the same kind of way. Doctor Who people, the same kind of way.
Dude,
like, and it's like, I'm not telling you not to enjoy it. Yeah. I'm just telling you I don't want to hear about it, because you're not going to get what you need out of me on it.
I'm gonna tell you it's not good.
I'm not going to go read.
It's different.
I'm not going to go home and read 7 books so we can talk about this.
No.
That's not happening. I'm not going to go watch it again. I'm not going to go watch 12 movies so that you feel like.
And maybe I'll miss it. Yeah.
Okay, in that case, I need you to watch the last 40 years of pro wrestling so we can talk about that. You know, like.
Yeah, that's a lot.
Yeah,
it's a lot.
Yeah, like it's. I think a lot of it is because I grew up a pro wrestling fan,
right?
And when I started watching wrestling, it was not cool to like pro wrestling. Right. It was a very down time where you were a huge dork if you liked it, and watching people like having people try to make fun of me for something that like it doesn't matter.
Exactly.
It wasn't my job. I wasn't not going to school because of it. Like I was, you know, my dad would do that all the time. He would make fun of me for watching it. And I was like, I'm an honor roll student who's never been in trouble once. Right. How about you shut the fuck up? Like I could, you want me to go do heroin instead? Like what do you want from me right now?
Way worse things.
So that's a conversation my wife and I have had with, you know, having a kid. Like it's very important to me. Like as long as
likes the kid, you hate the kid.
Exactly. So we'll get together on this. I'll make an exception. But it's more like as long as he's into stuff, I don't care what he's into. It just has to be legal, and he can't be into nothing. Like that's the thing. Like my dad tried to force my older brother to play baseball all the time, for instance, and like my brother liked baseball, but like my dad was like, you got to go to the. He was like living his dreams through him, and I'm like, it'll be cool if my son likes some of the stuff I like, but. If he gets into fishing, which I'm not an outdoorsy guy at all, but if he loves the outdoors, guess what? I'll figure it out and I'll encourage it. Yeah. Because what the fuck does it matter to me? If he's happy and not hurting himself or anybody, go have fun. And that's how I feel about any like nerddom stuff. Like, leave me alone with it if I don't like it. But like, I support you. Be passionate. I wish when people, you ask them like, what do you do for fun? If you can't answer me within 3 seconds, I don't trust you. Because you're not like a full person. Like everyone has to have at least one thing. It doesn't have to be spectacular. It could be I like to read. Awesome. But if you're like outside of work and just I don't know like there's nothing you just like that isn't for career or anything. You just enjoy it because it's stupid and fun. You can't tell me one thing right away.
I remember when I was in grade school, I was on the bus and we were talking about music, and this was one that I thought was weird. This kid, Tim Matasic, said that he just does not like music. That's got to be a problem.
Yeah,
that seems strange.
Because like,
if you can't find any kind of
he does not. He did not like hearing it. He said, "I hate it. I hate it when they play music in movies. I hate."
See, that's weird. Because
maybe there was like some kind of sensory thing though, where it just like bugged him up, like.
That might have been some undiagnosed like autism or something at the time where it was
everyone you're just like, oh man, so-and-so's a little weird.
He's just fidgety, you know. Because I'm someone if like you know, I would say it not meaning it literally. I am not a music person. That I don't find there's not a lot of music or like bands that really make me go, oh, I'm feeling something in my soul. Like I don't understand that, but like. I like songs.
Yeah, when you hear Shawn Michaels' song kick
a good wrestling theme song.
Oh yeah,
that'll shit. A good TV show like theme leading you into it. Oh god,
are you kidding me?
Man, when I hear that opening note of The Simpsons coming in, I'm like, okay, I'm going right over here and sitting down on this couch.
Danny Elfman will make you go.
Yeah, but like I'm not like a person like. Like, I have trouble, for instance, if you told me, like, ask me who my favorite band is, I would have trouble with that. Because there's not...
The Beatles.
The Beatles.
I don't even like them.
Yeah. But there's not a lot of, like, I like a lot of individual songs.
Right.
You know, and there's a lot of songs where, like, that's literally the only song I would ever want to listen to from this band.
Oh.
But there's some people who are just like, oh, man, I love the Phish, their entire catalog, or like, oh, the Rolling Stones, I'll listen to, and it's like, my brain doesn't work in that way, because I'm like, a lot of these songs are just fucking shitty. Yeah. There might be some good ones. I might be like, oh, there's some decent ones.
Even the artist themselves says, this was just a filler on this one.
We needed a B-side.
They said we promised them 9 songs, so we wrote this one.
I think it's weird whenever someone has like singles that are really good, and then the rest of the album is bad.
Yeah,
like
or it doesn't even almost relate. Like it doesn't even sound like the same type of music sometimes.
Yeah. Like Radiohead, I've tried so many times. That's like a band that everyone's like, you have to love Radiohead. And I'm like, I love every single. Every other song on the album is so bad. Yeah. It's so boring.
I would say there's 2 or 3 songs that I like from Radiohead. But like they'd be a good example of one that's like, I don't hate the band.
No.
But I don't understand, like I barely go to concerts because there's very few like bands that my brain goes, I would love to see them play their entire catalog live.
30 minutes. Give me 30 minutes of any band.
Yeah. But some people like look at like Dave Matthews fans.
Yeah.
Like they'll follow him forever, just like watching him just dick around. Phish, Grateful Dead, like those type of, like, I personally don't get it, but like I like some songs. Who hates all music?
No, I don't hate all Grateful Dead songs or anything like that. I like a lot of. I love the artwork. I mean, there's a bunch of stuff that's cool about it. I actually bought one of their old amps off of a guy on Facebook Marketplace. He had gotten this huge speaker cab.
Well, you're basically like an online picker, though. That's what
I am. But I mean,
in all of our conversations, you're like. Because I told you I was getting into hockey a little bit this year. You're like, here's 40 Anaheim Ducks hats. You want one? You just have like everything.
Dude, I've had human skulls. That's probably the craziest one I had. But whenever I was buying them, I was like, I already know who I'm selling these to.
Right.
Which is bad.
Yeah.
I think it's like weirder to know who you're going to sell it to than it is to buy it.
You know where to buy skulls, and you have a whole.
Well, I don't know buy them. I know where to find them.
Yeah.
In my head.
I got 2 options right now.
Yeah, okay.
They have burials every day by my house.
This is a 3rd place winning skull right here.
But it's like I own this piece of Grateful Dead equipment, and I don't really care that it belonged to the Grateful Dead, but it's like
someone
other people would be so excited. Well, I mean, I play music, so I am a music guy. I've been offended by everything you've said. So
good, as well you should be.
That was a joke. I love every Radiohead song. And
I love every song that's ever been made.
Yes, they're all good.
Especially Beatles' entire catalog.
It's impossible to have a bad song.
They're all exactly as good.
I will tell you the worst people with that are book people. Because I think books.
I think books too.
I read as well. I enjoy books, but books are just like every other art form that ever existed. There's some real good ones and a whole lot of fucking shit. And book people, like if you imply that you're gonna just throw a book away. Why didn't you donate it to sick kids?
Oh my god!
Because it's dinosaur erotica.
Yeah, it would kill
you're telling me that is like high? No, it's programming for dummies from 1995. Really, that book needs to be preserved on a shelf forever.
There's probably other copies out there.
Yeah, some shit can it's just like any other art. There's classic stuff that should exist and is amazing and great stories, but there's a whole lot of garbage. Yeah. Just because something's in a book doesn't mean it needs to be saved. Just like every stand-up comic, not every set I do is not something that needs to be in the fucking Louvre as like a pinnacle of high art. Sometimes it's just a thing.
I think the Shakespeare people are what drive me the most nuts.
Yeah,
I don't care about Shakespeare at all. I'm sure he did a lot of great stuff, and it's still rippling through our society today. But like reading it. Were you just supposed to read it? Weren't you just supposed to see it live now?
As someone who had to do a lot of it for theater, it's a heavy read. It's hard to read. And like, I don't necessarily that means something that's bad or good, but people do get cocky about it. And some art is just easy to consume, and that's what makes it good. Like that's why I'll turn it back to comedy again. Any comedian who talks about how comedians are the last true truth tellers, and we're the...
Yeah, so
Shut the fuck up.
Yeah.
What we are is freaking clowns, and some of us are capable of really making people think.
Yeah.
And some of us are slamming our nuts in a door to get a laugh, and
I like it both.
both are about like not everything has to be high art, and that's the thing. Like, I think Shakespeare is high art, but it doesn't mean that any other book is bad because it's not that. Like, there's different levels for things. Like, I don't understand all of the syntax and importance and imagery of Moby Dick.
No.
I'm not going to learn it either.
Yeah.
I personally don't care.
I like knowing the idea and the moral and what it means to people. I think that's great. Now I don't need to read it. Lord of the Rings, I can watch those movies.
Yeah.
If they get it out of the King James version, maybe someday I will read it.
Yeah, I've read The Hobbit like 6 times, and I'm always like, okay, now I'm going to read Lord of the Rings. It's, yeah, like, you make a very apt thing. Like, it's like the Bible. It's, I'm sure there's some decent storytelling in there. It's really, it's not a page turner. It's not, it's a very heavy, like the language is rough. I just read Mary Shelley's Frankenstein for the first time.
Okay.
It's not a particularly long book. I really enjoyed it. But
she was
like
17 when she wrote that.
Yeah. And it's like the only book she ever wrote, really. Like
That's
anything
crazy.
and like I really enjoyed it now. This was like my 5th time trying, because it's like it's not like the language isn't the easiest thing in 2025 TikTok society, you know, and I'm a part of that now. It's like, doesn't mean it's bad because I didn't get through it before. Right. And it also doesn't mean that I'm now better than everybody because I got through the book and I liked it and it uses elevated language and it's really like, no.
I love diction.
Yeah. Oh, like I got into hate watching book YouTube for a while, where it's like the people who are like recommending and reviewing books and stuff. Man. The amount of times they're like, oh, she uses really good prose. Go fuck yourself, you nerds. Just tell me you like you can like a thing without being a cunt about it. Like, that's all there is to it.
So in the book, Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, do they kill the Frankenstein's monster? Sorry.
Actually, the director's name. No.
They don't.
Yeah. Spoilers for a 400-year-old book or whatever it is.
That's all you want to know. You were like, I'm going to read it, or I'm just going to find it.
Well, I always felt bad for the moral of the Frankenstein movie, because I'm like, no, they had to kill him.
Yeah.
He threw a little girl in the water and she died. So they don't know what to do with someone like that back then.
See, in the book, that's not exactly how it works. So he does murder a few people, but it's basically people that are closely attached to Victor Frankenstein, who created him.
So he's horny, jealous?
But basically, he was like, you created me. I didn't ask for this. You immediately abandoned me because I was a monstrosity. So now I'm out for revenge on you. So like he kills his
mom and dad?
He kills his like little brother and basically frames the little brother's like caretaker that had been part of the family as the one that was the murderer. So they both die. Kills his like wife on there. So he's hunting Frankenstein, like the monster, down, and dies before he gets there.
So is Frankenstein still alive?
At the end of the book, yeah.
Did you know that?
I did not.
I had no idea.
Yeah, like because he pisses him off. He's like, the monster comes and he's like, look, I'll leave you the fuck alone since you're not going to be my friend. And all these people I've tried to be friends with think I'm a monster. Make me a bride and we'll go away. And I'll leave alone so I have one person. And then he starts to do it for a while. And then he's like, well, I can't create a second murderer. And then like destroys his work.
All he needed was a flashlight with a vagina.
Yeah, basically this one right there.
Hooked to electricity.
Yeah, as we all do, quite frankly. And yeah, after he does that, then he's like, well, I'm gonna just make your life hell. That's when he kills his wife. And then the doctor is going insane. Basically, he makes his whole life mission after that point. Be like, I have to kill this thing I created. But he basically made a superhuman. Because he's like giant and strong and can like run fast and stuff. So he's like going over like, you know, glaciers and stuff, trying to catch this thing. That...
And he like speak like
he teaches himself like how to like. It's like the whole book. I think movies don't always show this, but like the span of the book is like 30 years. It's like a long time.
Okay.
So he starts as being basically just like a human baby would be, just scared and confused and like whatever. He's like hangs out and like basically is spying on this family who he kind of like makes his friends in his head. He like learns all about them and learns to like talk and what language means by listening to them for months.
Okay.
And stuff like that. And then when he revealed himself, because he thought like, oh, the father would be, because the father was blind in that house, and he's like, oh, he won't know how I look like, so he'll, through communication, he'll be my friend, and then tell this family what a good guy I am, and then the second the family comes home, they're like, kill the beast!
I can't believe
There's a lot going. I'm definitely not a guy who's like, the book is so much better than the movie.
Yeah.
But the movies are just not what that story is.
There's a De Niro one, right? And that's supposed to be closer.
So. Yeah, because the whole, because I think this is any good story, you're supposed to have some empathy for the monster.
Yeah.
Because he's not just killing because he's a monster, he's killing because everyone is trying to kill him all the time and shunning him, and he just wants a companionship, and the guy who created him. It's basically like, if your parents abandon you, like kind of thing. He's like, well, fuck my parent. Like, so it's like, you're supposed to have empathy for him. And a lot of the movies, it's like, it was a much easier story to tell in early movies that like, big monster kill town. We must kill him.
And the one that we all know, it's just like, okay, basically he's mentally handicapped. He understands nothing, and he kills just because he's dumb.
Yeah, not at all. He's highly intelligent, which makes him scarier. Actually,
that's so much cooler.
Yeah, he's very meticulous and plotting, and like does all that when he decides he wants revenge. It's really cool. Like it's a good book.
Right on. Well,
I read a book. Is what I'm saying.
I noticed that. You're like, I hate book people.
Yeah.
30 minutes on Mary Shelley's Frankenstein.
You guys better read it.
But basically, that was my way. It was very similar to when I had to read a book in high school. I just would read 2 pages of it, of what the reading assignment was, and then raise my hand right away to say something smart, so I didn't have to be talked to again. Yeah. I talked about this one book. So then book people will be like, this guy knows books.
Yeah.
I'm going to let him be. And not be a total douchebag towards him.
Dude, one of my heroes in my life, my father-in-law, the coolest thing he said, one of them, was he looked at me one time and he said, I don't like reading. And he was super smart. He loved all cool things. He was very learned. But he said, I don't like reading books. And I was like, I've been trying to say that for years. Yeah. And people have acted like I was an idiot for it.
Yeah. I don't read a lot. I don't read fiction. I read a lot, but it's rare. I'm just not a big fiction reader.
And like, if you're not so close-minded, there's a lot of really good ways to still take in meaningful narrative.
Yeah.
Like video games are not just Pac-Man eating dots and fruit now. Like, there's a lot of stupid games that have no real artistic merit, and there's a lot of stuff that's like really heart-wrenching, great storytelling, because it's just like any other art form. And that's that's how I like to take in my stories in different ways like that. For me, it's not that I'm too good reading is just it's a big time sink that I just don't always have. Like that's not what I want to use my free time on. And I don't do enough road trips anymore because I live on the West Coast. I used to drive to all my gigs when I lived in Indiana.
Yeah.
So you can do audiobooks.
Yeah.
When you do that, but like I don't drive to any of my gigs anymore. And if I'm home, I'm not going to listen to a book. I'm going to take advantage of this.
Wrestling.
Well, right. I'm gonna consume the stuff that like I can't do in my car or when I'm on the road. So I'm gonna play my video games.
Nice day though.
100%. I read a lot of I read a lot of the wrestling books. I read a lot of those. So
awesome. Okay. Well, we're about at an hour now. So
what time is it?
It's 6:14. What else you got going on right now?
You're looking. I got this is like the end of the podcast promotion thing. I'll do that now. I got my own podcast. It's called The Cafeteria. I do with Johnny LaQuasto, who I've known forever. He was an announcer for WWE for A Cup of Coffee. And Brent Terhune, who a lot of people in the Midwest know him. He does the fake MAGA redneck truck video guys. The redneck you all love to hate. Kind of guy. So most people, if you don't know him, you've seen his videos at some point.
He's been through here a couple times here. Lately.
Yeah. And one of my best friends, I've known him for a long time too. So it's called The Cafeteria. Check that out. I have a special that came out a couple years ago on Amazon Prime and Tubi called Unarmed and Dangerous. I am working on just a lot of stuff now. I kind of had been doing childcare for the last year, so now I'm kind of getting back into fixing my social media and all that stuff now. So I'm going to be doing some like video game Let's Play and Twitch stuff. I'm trying to put together a wrestling podcast. I'm just doing shows. CrippleThreat.com will have on my calendar, and CrippleThreat8 is all the social media stuff.
Awesome.
Nice.
I accidentally got a hold of a different Cripple Threat, and he's like, I'm not Ryan Niemiller. And I was like, oh. And he's like, this happens daily.
Yeah, it does. Was it just Cripple Threat, like on Instagram?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm actually buddies with that guy now.
That's what he said.
Before that.
Yeah.
So we don't talk all the time, but when I first... So I've been Cripple Threat 8 forever. When I initially tried... I think it was probably an Xbox Live account. I tried to do Cripple Threat, and it was taken. And 8's my favorite number. There's no real other thought process to it than that. So I just became Cripple Threat 8. And that's just what I've run with on everything, because I don't want to have a different screen name for every different social media or whatever.
Yep.
When I did AGT, they didn't make me change it. I guess there was a fear they might have, because I don't think Cripple's offensive, but Standards and Practices at NBC might have. They let me keep Cripple Threat 8. They put that like at the bottom when your audition airs and stuff, like so you have it there. And people don't always pay attention. So the night my first audition aired, a lot of people were DMing Cripple Threat. His name is Chad.
Yeah.
He's a nice guy. He does a lot of online poker. That's kind of what he does.
Oh.
He's apparently pretty good at it. But he DM'd me like the next day. He was like, "Hey, look, I don't give a fuck about America's Got Talent, but I guess you did pretty well last night. So I've been sending people your way." And I was like, "Oh, cool, man, thanks." And we kind of became buddies. So.
That's awesome. I actually have some gifts for you.
Oh.
There's like a little Walmart bag over there. No, not one of the nice ones. It's a Walmart bag. Or a Kroger bag. Oh, it's down there.
It's a human skull.
It is. I wish it was a human skull. Okay, so I know that you're into G.I. Joe stuff. So
Correct. That is something I am collecting right now.
I'm never going to sell this stuff. I've decided to
Oh,
just
that's
give it away. So you
awesome.
got, there's soup in there, 30-year-old soup.
Okay, good.
And
Gold thermos. That's awesome.
this great G.I. Joe mask. That's the official G.I. Joe mask, and you know it because it says it's the official G.I. Joe mask.
God,
on
this has to be 60s.
Put
or
it
70s.
on.
It's broken.
Come
The
on.
string's broken, man.
Oh, there you go.
I can do that.
Yes.
Oh my God, I'm so horny now.
Give me your candy. Oh, cool. Thank you, man. I love weird stuff like this.
Yeah.
If I had more space, I would collect more stuff like that.
Yeah.
My son, I will never forgive him for this. I used to have 2 game rooms in my home, and then one of them had to become his bedroom. I had a really cool wife, and then she became not cool when she's like, the baby has to have a place to sleep. He can't stay in our room till he's 18.
Wait, he can't stay in there until he's 18?
I know. Well, I mean, because like I had the modern game room and the retro game room, and it was awesome.
Yeah.
And then the retro game room had to become the baby's room. So that's partially why you're able to buy NES games for me. Because I have now, I think, 16 totes of video game stuff just in my closet, or in my garage, rather, just hanging out. And at a certain point, you're just like, and this stuff's got to go. It's just too much space. So you are benefiting from my broken dreams, Brice.
Yeah. All right. Well, we got
a show.
we got a show coming up in about 30 minutes. Yeah, I hear people coming up the steps.
Yeah.
Get out of here.
We got another one. Let's see. Don't use that. We got a show coming up here next week 2 weeks from now. Sam Talent on February 28th, and we have our open mic here next Friday, the 21st. So 21st open mic, 28th Sam Talent. Make sure you get tickets to that. If you're watching this in your car right now, or I guess you'd be listening. If you're
eyes on the
watching,
road.
but wave it. Mr. Niemiller here,
Yeah.
and tell him how great he was as our first guest on this podcast that has no name and no trajectory at all.
And also, I apologize. I probably should have asked ahead of time because I noticed you guys didn't really curse. So I'm sorry if my cursing made things.
Fuck, pussy, turd.
There we go. All right.
All right. We did.
Well, I know you're dirty
podcast.
heathens in real life, but like I didn't know.
Shit.
Because I didn't say cunt on America's Got Talent because I know you're not supposed to.
Yeah.
Oh,
You
man.
can say it,
Even whenever you saw Simon, you didn't say it. That's like, isn't that a big British word?
He would have liked it.
Yeah, he would have. He loves.
Loves cuts.
He loves
Yeah. All right. Bye-bye.
See ya.
Cool. Thank you for these. These are awesome.
Dude, thanks for doing our podcast.
Absolutely.
I appreciate it.